The Lexus NX in the luxury line variant. The first compact SUV that Lexus brought onto the market was a hybrid, the NX 300h. Now the Japanese company has introduced a version with only a gasoline engine, the NX 200T. Test driver Robert Satting says Lexus is the world's last premium manufacturer to build a compact SUV, but the NX is tough competition for the others. Protruding wheel arches and crisp edges make it stand out from the crowd. The Leonine design and a radiator grille that seems to roar might lead you to think that the NX churns out a lot of CO2, but the NX first came out as a hybrid, and so even the low version with the gasoline-powered 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo engine is based on a low-emission fuel-saving concept. The 6-speed automatic transmission calculates the right torque for each driving situation, so the accelerator pedal responds more spontaneously and the NX consumes less fuel. The aggressive design language and the highly reflective titanium silver color make the NX a choice for extroverted drivers who want to be noticed. The turbocharged 4-cylinder engine produces a hefty 175 kilowatts. That and all-wheel drive let the Lexus launch from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 7.1 seconds. Selling for 58,250 euros in Germany, our test car is in the same price range as the similarly equipped Audi Q5. Robert says the ambience and outfitting of the NX are genteel, with no expense spared. Head-up display, touchpad, 360-degree camera surveillance, and an adaptive speed control that keeps the car a constant distance from the vehicle in front, and that, in combination with the pre-crash safety system, can bring the car to a full stop all on its own. The interior displays typical Lexus elegance. The highlight of the luxury line is bamboo trimming. Along with plenty of digital technology, there's still room for an analog clock. The driver can choose among 3 driving modes with a switch. The navigation system is operated with a touchpad. The angle of the rear seat backrest can be varied as desired, electronically. The hatch opens electronically as well to reveal 580 liters of storage space and a large compartment under the cargo floor. Our test driver is impressed with the NX 200T's powerful acceleration and torque. Lexus sells a lot in the United States, so suspension comfort is writ large in this SUV. But it offers more feel for the road than the soft riverboat atmosphere of an American car. Its agility makes it well suited to European metropolises. For people who don't want a hybrid, the NX 200T is a good alternative. The luxury line version costs 58,250 euros and up in Germany, and is available with all-wheel drive. There is a basic version with front-wheel drive for 15,000 euros less. The price for the Lexus is comparable to that of its competitors in similar versions. The Lexus NX 200T's unique design is probably its primary unique selling point. Reinhold Deisenhofer says getting around isn't always easy in another country. Buses and trains are cheap and good for the environment, but not always very comfortable. And in some places, they might not be so safe. Taxis are expensive, and rental cars have another problem. You have to park them somewhere. In big cities like Los Angeles and New York, parking fees are extremely high, making car rental even more expensive. We're in San Francisco to test an app that's already been a success in Germany. It's called Drive Now. The app shows you where the nearest available car is and how long it takes to walk there. You can reserve it by tapping an icon, then go to the car, unlock it, get in, and drive away. Time to see if this German app works in America. It's a few minutes walk to the car Reinhold has reserved. 8 minutes later, it's right there, the BMW 1 Series Active E. You hold up the customer card to the reader, and then the journey begins. The first 30 minutes cost $12. Each additional minute is 32 cents. A full day costs $60.
Compared to a taxi, Drive Now is very affordable. So a trip from downtown San Francisco to the airport would cost half as much in a Drive Now car as it would cost in a taxi.
We take advantage of the competitive price to do a bit of sightseeing, and the 160-kilometer range of the Active E is more than enough. The electric motor uses more power going uphill, but recuperates it going downhill, like on the famous Lombard Street. But what if we want to park the car? There's a special app called Park Now. He says the app doesn't just give you the address where the car is parked, but also tells you how to get there. And that's better than certain others that only list the address, and then you discover the entrance is at the back of the building, on a different street, where others are already looking for a parking space. That takes a lot of time, and is also bad for the environment. We can not only find parking spaces with the app, we can also reserve them directly just by tapping an icon.
Parking is definitely a pain point that everybody speaks to in San Francisco, and unfortunately, there has been no solution because the parking industry has not been able to create a marketplace. So Park Now, when it came onto the scene, has really created an opportunity to create a marketplace where the consumer can now have visibility to the parking, which is usually opaqued by the private operator. And now with the onset of our new partners, we also provide the on-street parking as well as the off-street parking.
But it's not time to park yet. We instead take a trip across the Golden Gate Bridge to the countryside on the other side of San Francisco Bay. The daily rate of $60 includes 300 kilometers, and the battery still has plenty of charge. Reinhold says the BMW Active E drives like a normal car. The recuperative braking might take some getting used to at first, but you'll soon be happy to see each time it adds a kilometer to the car's range. The Drive Now app also works without any problems. You just open it up, find a car, book it, unlock it, use it, stop it, lock it, and that's all, even in another country. Looking for a sporty compact? Check out the Corsa OPC. Its engine produces a good 152 kilowatts. The chassis and steering were honed on the north loop of the Nürburgring racetrack to ensure it really handles like a sports car. The ESP system can be turned off completely, removing all obstacles to pure driving fun. Subaru has expanded its product line by launching a diesel version of the Forester with a stepless automatic transmission. Consuming only 6.3 liters per 100 kilometers, the 2.0 Boxer engine produces 108 kilowatts. And although it has an automatic transmission and all-wheel drive, it's fuel efficient for an SUV. The Peugeot 108 is especially popular with female drivers. It comes as a 3- or 5-door hatchback, and there are all sorts of exterior paintwork and interior choices. If you shell out 1,250 euros more, you can get a retractable fabric roof that provides a nice breeze on a sunny day. Test driver Ines Petri says she's testing the three-door version of the top convertible. She's especially interested in how much space there is. Whichever version of the 108 you go for, the dimensions are the same. And there are many reasons why this small French car is a runner with women. The paintwork can be purple if desired, and the fabric roof can be black, gray, or purple. There's a makeup mirror above the driver's seat. But is the car family-friendly? Ines says a modern woman has to juggle various tasks in her daily routine. There are Isofix anchors on the back seat to attach a child seat, though it might be a tight fit. This would be easier with 4 doors, but the test car only has 3, and that is often the case in the real world too. Often people buy these cars before they have kids, and then they have to adapt. There isn't that much extra space left over if the driver's seat is pushed forward, but it is easy enough to install a child seat. Ines says that although you can put a seat in, it could get a bit fiddly to put on seat belts. She says people who are thinking of using the car with kids would be better off investing in 2 extra doors. The 5-door version would be more compatible with extra adults too. On the road, the Peugeot 108's performance is very good. It's capable of reaching a maximum top speed of 170 kilometers per hour and consumes 4.3 liters of gasoline per 100 kilometers. This means CO2 emissions are kept below the 100-gram mark. The basic 3-door model without a fabric roof costs less than 9,000 euros in Germany. Ines says that the Peugeot 108 only offers 3-cylinder engines. This one has 60 kilowatts. That's more than enough for city driving. You can keep up with the traffic and never get a feeling of falling behind. The 108 is very modern when it comes to communications. She says the white interior reminds her of modern tablet computers, and the technology in the car is just as modern. You could connect your phone to the car's display and navigate via the phone, for example. But if you haven't planned the route in advance, it consumes a lot of data. That's why young drivers might want to resort to a traditional navigation system. If a car is shorter than 3.5 meters long, you can't expect that much from the trunk, but this one is fine for shopping in town. You can fold down the rear seats for more storage space, a total of 780 liters. If you have a child and a bit more stuff, you might have to be creative about how to use the space available. If there's a child seat in place, you can only fold down one back seat. There's space for the shopping, but you might be a bit hard-pressed if you also wanted to fit in a buggy. The 5-door hatchback might not provide any more space, but when it comes to comfort and convenience, it's definitely worth shelling out the extra 450 euros. Hybrid vehicles aren't all that popular yet in Germany. We want to see if we can whet bakery owner Franz Haven's taste for 2 models. Franz says he thinks a hybrid could be something for him. It's not far from his house to his business, so a hybrid will work. He could charge it in front of the house and then shop too. First, we'll introduce the Volvo V60 as a plug-in hybrid. From the outside, you can barely tell it apart from a normal V60. And the R design emphasizes the hatchback's sporty looks. The trunk has only 305 liters of space, rather than the 430 liters in the normal V60. One reason is that the charging cable, which is stored under a hatch, takes up extra space. Our baker says he likes the look of the exterior and that the trunk is relatively big. There's lots of space for loading the car with baked goods and cakes, and its appearance is nice too. Next, we'll move on to one of the world's best-selling cars, the Toyota Prius. The plug-in is the flagship for the whole Prius family. 90 minutes connected to a household electric socket are all it takes to give the Japanese car a full charge. The trunk has 443 liters of space that can be expanded to 1,543 liters. The charging cable has its own underfloor storage area. So what does Franz think of our Asian hybrid? He says this car isn't really his thing. The rear end and the cargo area aren't really suited to his needs. But we're not settling for that as the last word. We're sending our bakery owner out to test drive the Prius plug-in hybrid. Together, the electric motor and internal combustion engine deliver a total of 100 kilowatts. Toyota says its hybrid requires only 2.1 liters of gasoline to travel 100 kilometers. At 0 to 100 in 10.8 seconds, acceleration is a bit weak, but emissions of 49 grams of CO2 per kilometer put the Prius among the cleanest cars in its class. It has a range of 25 kilometers running on electricity alone, and a total range of 1,200 when the gasoline engine kicks in. Maximum speed running on electricity is 85 kilometers an hour. Did driving the Prius remove some of France's reservations? The baker says the car drove well. It's steady, quiet, and soft. Now we'll compare. We get out of the Toyota and into the Volvo. The Toyota hybrid is a gasoline hybrid, while the car from Sweden is a diesel hybrid. We'll find out if that improves things with a little test drive. The diesel hybrid produces up to 208 kilowatts of power and burns just 1.8 liters of fuel to travel 100 kilometers. It's faster in the sprint, getting to 100 kilometers an hour in 6.1 seconds. And running emissions-free on electricity alone, the V60 can go 50 kilometers. Together with the diesel, that climbs to 900 kilometers. The Volvo's maximum speed on electric power is 120 kilometers an hour. Was Art Baker convinced by the hybrid diesel? He says he's really happy with his car for the most part, though it was a bit noisier to drive, but it had more zip too. So both vehicles are worthy of consideration until you address the question of price. The Toyota plug-in hybrid sells for 36,600 euros in Germany. The Volvo goes for quite a bit more, at 58,700 euros. Franz says both cars cost too much, and then there are fuel and electricity bills to consider. And for the distances he has to drive, it wouldn't be worth it. A car just doesn't have that long a service life.
Dass sich das gar nicht lohnen würde für mich, so ein Auto zu kaufen. So lange hält ein Auto einfach nicht.
We suspect that as long as the German government does not subsidize electromobility, as they do in other countries, readiness to invest in alternative drive systems will remain low. Our test driver Christoph Bauer has chosen a real revolutionary to race around the curvy roads of Tuscany. A Golf GTI. The standard Golf didn't set race car drivers' hearts ablaze, but the three letters GTI changed all that. They revolutionized the compact car market for Volkswagen, for Germany, and for the world. Christoph says the Golf became the successor to the Beetle in 1974, the time of the oil crisis, when driving was banned on some Sundays in Germany. VW was convinced that 70 horsepower was enough for a Golf. The Scirocco was the sportier line in the VW fleet back in '74. With its more aerodynamic form, it promised maximum speeds of 175 kilometers an hour. The Golf, by contrast, was intended to appeal to VW's traditional customer base, thrifty, down-to-earth drivers without a sporty bone in their body and no particular penchant for the passing lane. Christoph says some engineers started tinkering with the Golf in their spare time. They started to develop a prototype more or less on their own. 2 years down the road, after a few successful test drives, the sporting version of the Golf was officially commissioned. Nowadays, every child knows the abbreviation GTI. GTI stands for Gran Turismo Injection, a synonym for motorsport. The first version was the most popular one, with sales of 461,000 vehicles over 7 years. Christoph says it's still pretty nippy today thanks to its 110 horsepower engine and a weight of just 860 kilos. The chassis is a good compromise between sportiness on the one hand and comfort and safety on the other. VW places a lot of importance on safety. This sticker asks drivers to remain belted in until the motor has come to a complete standstill. Cost was also an important factor. The development of the first GTI cost just 7 million West German marks. The 1.6-liter engine was originally built for the Audi 80 GTE. Back then, the Audi plant in Ingolstadt was responsible for developing all of the company's engines. Christoph says that VW then focused on breaking through the 180-kilometer-an-hour barrier. That proved tricky at first, probably because of the air drag. But they came up with a simple and practical solution, the front spoiler. As a result, they could proudly announce top speeds of 183 kilometers per hour.
Spitzengeschwindigkeit 183 km/h.
But this front spoiler, which made such a splash in the mid-'70s, isn't the GTI's only trademark. Christoph says little details have earned the car a big following, like the oil temperature gauge and the plaid pattern on the sports seats, like in the Scirocco. The iconic Golf ball gear shift warms the hearts of fans. On the outside, too, VW had to show that the GTI was no ordinary Golf, so Christoph says the front spoiler, the red-bordered radiator grille, and the black trim were features of the GTI until the mid-'80s. And, of course, the wing extensions. 175mm tires came as standard, but the GTI had room for ones as wide as 205mm, like the Porsches of the time. Who was afraid of the big bad Golf? The competition, that's who. In 1976, the car cost less than 14,000 Deutschmarks and could go from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 9 seconds. But for many owners, that wasn't enough. They pimped their GTIs for all they were worth. They loved to tune the GTI's 1.6-liter engine with its Bosch mechanical fuel injection. Christoph says it was very popular, especially in small towns, to soup up the GTI with spoilers, wide tires, sports suspensions and seats, and big bass speakers. After parading in front of the local disco, the car would occasionally wind up in a ditch. So original, first series GTIs are real rarities. The sheet metal used to make the cars wasn't always top quality, which has also led to the demise of many GTIs. Christoph says, as of the mid-'70s, sporty cars were rolling off the Volkswagen assembly lines in Wolfsburg, as well as at Porsche and Ferrari. The GTI started the trend towards sports sedans, so the GTI definitely deserves to be called a milestone in automobile history. With its compact form, front-wheel drive, and impressive performance, the GTI didn't just prove a winning recipe for VW. The first GTI created a whole new market segment in the automobile industry.